Hello, sick to New York. And by the way, kids can scream and cry and holler. We're Biden. We're used to it.
Crying foul. He's talking about the kids at the border, I assume. They're used to hearing the children scream. It's like Clarice listening to the lambs screaming at night. Joe Biden, he loves it when the children scream. It's good to be a Democrat, isn't it? Then he sniffs them. When they start screaming, he likes to bend over, press his nose against them. Well, good Tuesday to you, and welcome back once again. We continue to be accessible at 888-630-9625. 888-630-9625. Michael Piercy and I talking before the big radio program this morning, and discovered that in Oakland, California, isn't Kamala from Oakland? Isn't she the Oakland, California City Council, that's where the Jonestown cultists came from, the People's Temple, the mass suicide in Guyana, South America. Oakland City Council advances proposal exempting cannabis from residential smoking ban. They have a residential smoking ban that the Democrats in the City Council in Oakland, California have voted in favor of. So if you live in a condo or a multi-unit building, you may not smoke unless you're smoking pot. If you're smoking pot, that's okay. I assume crack is exempted too, and whatever opioids you might be smoking, because got to exempt that. That'd be discriminatory, but they're discriminating against smoking cigarettes. Council members decided 6-0, a unanimous vote for Democrats following along, to support the exemption, which was supported by California NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, if I remember correctly. Members of the Oakland City Council voted to exempt cannabis from a proposed ordinance barring smoking in multi-unit residential dwellings where people dwell in multi-units, but in the same building. That sounds like a heck of an idea, doesn't it? Because the Democrats, they got it all figured out. That reminds me of the illegal alien in Michigan that ran over and killed the 72-year-old pastor, the preacher. I want to get into that one, too, because, the Democrats, this is what the Democrat policies lead to. This is what the Democrats do. This is what they bring. They're not on the side of civilization at all, are they? No, they're not. Fox 2 in Detroit, family of well-known Detroit area pastor killed in crash. Questions why suspect was released. He was released because of the Biden-Kamala Harris administration policies. By the way, where is Kamala Harris? I was texting with friends yesterday, and a friend said, boy, one of the great pleasures, actually, now I think of it, it was one of my brothers that texted, said, boy, I'll tell you one thing that's been really nice for the last couple of weeks is we haven't heard Kamala Harris's name. We haven't seen her face. She got on Air Force 2 here in Washington, went to Andrews, Joint Base Andrews Air Force Base, got on Air Force 2, flew to Hawaii, where she is not welcome to stay at the Obama's multi-million-dollar oceanfront palace, which sits on the same property that used to be the home from the TV show Magnum P.I., but they bulldozed that. That wasn't nice enough for them or big enough for them. So the Obamas, they built their multi-million-dollar, and they built a seawall, too, that to save their property, that violates state ordinances, violates state law. But don't you know who he is? The law doesn't apply to him. The law doesn't apply to any of them, does it? Speaking of Jack Smith, Kamala, she went to Hawaii, and we haven't heard from her since. We may never hear from her again. It's possible that she may just never come back. Baby, come back. And she's a terrible person, but she's in Hawaii, and she's not staying at the Obama's multi-million-dollar oceanfront mansion there. She's probably not staying because it's not in Hawaii at their multi-million-dollar oceanfront mansion on Martha's Vineyard, and definitely not staying at their multi-million-dollar mosque front mansion in Washington, D.C., in the shadow of the main mosque in Washington, D.C., because, he loves the sound of the call to prayer. It's the most beautiful sound he's ever heard. He's not on our side. The guy is not on our side. But remarkable stuff. Where did Kamala go? She's gone. She is, nobody's going to sing Baby Come Back. You can blame it all on me, because that would be the wrong song, I think, just for so many reasons. But speaking of Democrats and Biden and screaming children and all of that, a well-known Detroit area pastor has died after police say he was struck by a car driven by an undocumented immigrant. That's an illegal alien that the Democrats waved into the country. Now his family is wondering why that driver was let go as they grieve. Wondering why he was let go. That's a reasonable thing to wonder. The word heartbreak does not even begin to describe what Terry Singleton has been feeling in the days since losing her husband, 72-year-old Stephen Singleton. Stephen Singleton, 72 years old, and his now widow, Terry Singleton, wondering what happened to her pastor husband. Honestly, she said, I had to sit and watch my husband of 53 years die in front of me, and then to know that the person who did it is walking around is very difficult to deal with, said the widow, Terry Singleton. He was a well-known area pastor who would do anything for anyone. Police say he was struck by an undocumented immigrant, that's an illegal alien, as he crossed the street in Rochester Hills. And Singleton died several days after being hit by the illegal alien who was careening down the street. And they buried in the story, it gets even worse, but they say he had almost every bone in his body broken, said the widow, Terry Singleton. He had his collarbone fractured, internal organ damage, his skull was cracked. He had 2 craniotomies in the hospital. Family members say that Pastor Singleton, dedicated servant of good and a former medic who traveled to New York City to help people after the attacks of 9/11, 2001. And terrible, terrible thing. Now, they say that he was out for his exercise, his run, walk, right? And he was crossing a crosswalk in a marked crosswalk. And the illegal alien crashed into him. I also read that the illegal alien does not have a driver's license. He's an illegal alien that was waved into the United States by the Biden administration because they like more crime. They're in favor of a lot of crime. They figure a good way to accomplish that is having a lot of illegal alien gang members from Venezuela and stuff because, that'll make things better. They're Democrats. They're the left. And then he was let go. Why was he let go? Well, because they got some liberals there. Citizen of Colombia, the country of Colombia. They have a lot of cocaine there, a lot of cocaine, a lot of pot, a lot of drug trafficking, a lot of that stuff going on. But why is that a big deal? That's not a big deal. See, the Democrats, they see that and they say, well, what? Bad things happen. Get over it. Yeah, more bad things happen because of you and your policies, just by the way. You guys are really the bad thing happening, I think, aren't you? Yes, you are. Terrible, terrible people. So we got that going for us because that's pretty crazy. And spotted that story this morning. Not a happy one, but there you have it. We've got a lot of stories to get to today. Joe Biden was out there. Oh, we got Alec Baldwin. You are worthless, Alec Baldwin. You are worthless, Alec Baldwin. He what did he shoot and kill another woman? Not that I'm aware of, not so far. But he did speak to a group of radical lefties, and it probably won't surprise you completely to hear what he had to say about the American people, about us, about Americans. And I'm guessing what he's doing is he's projecting his own self, his own family. Does he have a family? He's got, oh, yeah, because I remember him screaming at and abusing his daughter over the phone. And then he's got the wife who thinks that she is Spanish, right? And she goes around speaking with a Spanish accent. And does she shoot people too, or just, remember, guns don't kill people. Alec Baldwin kills people. But in the meantime, and in between time, ain't we got fun? Judge dismisses charges against Trump in D.C. election case after Jack Smith, the crooked, useless, perhaps he should be prosecuted and charged with crime, special counsel, prosecutor that the Democrats brought back to go after Trump because there's still a lynch mob. They were a lynch mob in the 1860s, and they're a lynch mob today. They're the Democrat Party. Remarkable stuff. And Donald Trump Jr. says, this is great, this will stir him up big time, says his dad may remove mainstream media from press room. Now, this is, and I'll explain this, may remove mainstream media from the press room. No Washington Post, New York Times in the briefing room at the White House. We'll see where that goes, but an interesting discussion to have. You know, it kind of goes with the soundbite of Hillary Clinton saying that people that spread misinformation and disinformation should face civil charges and maybe criminal charges for spreading misinformation, disinformation. So if you're going to take Hillary's word for it, then I think there are people at the New York Times that may spend the rest of their lives in a penitentiary because that'd be real bad spreading misinformation.
There are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda, and whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrent.
Yeah, well, that's true. Putting people in prison does serve as a deterrent. Of course, they say that's not the case when it comes to a whole lot of things, but that's because mostly it's their family members they're talking about. Remarkable stuff, but President Trump says, Donald Trump Jr. says that his father, President Trump, may remove mainstream media from the press room. And fascinating stuff. Put Joe Rogan in there. Put me in there. I'll go in there, and then the press conferences there will be very different in the James Brady briefing room at the White House in Washington, D.C. in the United States of America, because we got that going for us. Also, another story that I didn't get to yesterday that a friend of mine wrote, Scott Hoganson, with a fun piece in Town Hall. Can we take back the English language now? Can we take back the English language now? I think that's a fun idea. And there's a photograph there of a woman who's written on her face with a black Sharpie the words they and them. They and them. I'm still curious, and nobody's answered my question, whether if your pronouns are they or them, this whole pronoun thing has to stop. Whether you get to use the HOV lanes on the highway, because I think you should. I think you should be able to. Great stuff. The Washington Post with a story today, an opinion piece, 5 reasons to turn off Morning Joe. 5 reasons to turn off Morning Joe. And in the Washington Post story, they actually call the show Morning Joke, which I thought was kind of fun. DNC, the Democratic National Committee, they're firing lots and lots of their employees because they've done such a horrible job, a terrible job, and they lost. And so the Democrats are building gulags for them and incinerators. It's not going to turn out very well. But the DNC, they have a union. You know, you've heard about this. The employees at the Democratic National Committee are unionized, and they've started a GoFundMe page. Shouldn't it be a Go Fund Yourself page? Because I think that'd be more fun. But the headline at Fox News, DNC union launches GoFundMe to help former employees hit by mass layoffs. Mass layoffs. Well, you guys, you're playing for Team Anti-America. You're really not. You're not on the side of the angels here by just amazing stuff. And Joe Biden mischievously snacks. He snacks from Friendsgiving. They have this Friendsgiving. It's like Thanksgiving, but you have your friends over, right? A military buffet. While the music in the background was Girls Just Want to Have Fun. He thinks the lyrics are Girls Just Want to Be Sniffed because he's more than a little bit weird. And this left-wing media guy in Washington yelling angrily at the National Press Club at Elon Musk and about Elon Musk and he's cursing. We had to beep him and stuff. But this left-wing radical extremist, he's very angry that nobody trusts the media anymore. And he attacks Elon Musk. Oh, sure, like you're the media because you've got a blue check mark? I think he's got more than a blue check mark, but that's me. We do have updates on Venezuelan gangs that the Democrats have waved into the country. DEI is becoming much less popular immediately after the election, the re-election of President Trump. This whole diversity, equity, inclusion thing is on fire, rolling down a hill. Is World War III just around the corner? In D.C., they're doing something about homelessness. You'll never believe what it is. And we are at 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Our border czar, Tom Homan, is headed to the border today. Kamala Harris is in Hawaii. That borders the Pacific Ocean. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Before we get Killer Baldwin and Joe Biden and the crazy and Jack Smith and dropping cases against Trump because they were ginned up and phony, and they were ginned up by corrupt people who must be investigated. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to David calling from Chantilly, Virginia. David, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Just great, David.
Yeah, so we all know the reason the Democrats opened the border was increased population in blue states for electoral purposes, right? So if we use this initial time that we've got control of House, Senate, and the presidency to pass a law to further define what the Constitution meant by a resident of a state for the census as only legal residents, meaning green card holders and citizens, then all of these undocumented immigrants would have no further value to the Democrat Party, and all of a sudden you'd have bipartisan support for closing the border and deportation.
If you could cut off their avenue that benefited them as a party, then they would be against it. I think that's true. You know, it's the Democrats, they loved slaves being counted as 3/5 of a person so they could get more seats in the House of Representatives for slave states. And today, they've got an updated version of that, and that's what you're describing, David, as illegal aliens being counted, head count in the populace for any state, and then they can add members of the seats in the House of Representatives, which is what the Democrats did.
And votes in the Electoral College, right?
Well, that's right, and votes in the Electoral College, yeah. Seats in the House, votes in the Electoral College. Yeah, the Democrats, I'm beginning to think, David, that the Democrat Party is kind of corrupt. What do you think?
Without a doubt.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, and then there's the media. And wait till you hear this Jim Vandehai guy from Axios having a conniption. I think my mother would have called it a conniption fit. Having a meltdown at the National Press Club. He's very angry that people don't respect journalists anymore. And then he demonstrates why we don't respect journalists anymore. All right, there is a fake reporter, and I'm looking forward to the Alec Baldwin audio today because he's making headlines all over the world for the first time since he shot and killed the cinematographer of his movie, Rust. Did that movie ever come out? Has anybody seen that movie? But just a couple of headlines for you from the Daily Mail out of the United Kingdom. Alec Baldwin's shockingly out-of-touch comments about uneducated Americans. He does hang out with the Hollywood crowd. I mean, you gotta remember the context in which Alec Baldwin sees the world, from which he sees the world. Remarkable stuff. But let me get Jim Vandehai, because this is kind of funny. MSDNC has a story on it, and their headline is, quote, "You're not the media," end quote. Axios CEO slams Elon Musk during speech. He slams Elon. Why would he slam Elon Musk? What's the matter with it? Oh, Elon Musk stopped singing from the Democrat Party's sheet music, and that's got the news media with their panties in a wedge, and you know how they get when they're like that, don't you? The Fox News channel Axios CEO rages against Musk's beep expletive deleted, claims that X users are the media now. See, this is Elon Musk says that X users, your Twitter, that is the media now. The media has gone to social media, and that the historical, the dinosaur media, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, and MSNBC, that they have gone the way of the dinosaur, that they are dead, they are no longer the media. Certainly, according to all the polls and polling, there is no respect for the corrupt news media. Remarkable stuff. But let me get to this. The MSDNC with their headline, "You're not the media," in quotation marks. Axios CEO slams Elon Musk during a speech. Why would he slam Elon Musk, you might want to know? Well, because Elon Musk is making fun of them and pointing out that the so-called mainstream news media no longer has the respect of the American people. We don't trust the so-called mainstream news media. Look, I'm third-generation media. I grew up in a CBS News household. Hey, here's Walter Cronkite over in the backyard for a barbecue, and my grandfather in radio starting in 1924, 100 years ago this year. My mother had a TV show when I was a kid, and she came on after my grandfather's TV show. And my stepfather in the news, my brother, he's my stepfather in the news from Vietnam and Israel during wars and the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King and all that stuff. I think it would be fair to say I grew up in a news environment. One thing I knew for sure is I didn't want to go into the media. Then I ended up working for CNN for 17 years, where I had a lot of fun, and I did real news, but never mind that. So let's get this, because the news media killed itself by way of autoerotic asphyxiation in a news media closet with a belt, and I don't want to go into the rest because, it's still breakfast time for a lot of people. But here's the Axios CEO rages against Musk's BS. I'll clean it up. Beep. Claims that X users are the media now, which is what Elon Musk is saying, that you use Twitter, everybody's the media now. We all get our news and information from each other. We don't need CNN. And wah, wah, wah. Yeah, whatever, LMAO, Elon Musk replied to Axios' Jim Vandehai. Remarkable stuff, and the headlines all over the place. Shattered Democrats grapple with Harris's loss, NBC News. What just happened, Huffington Post? Also, I read the poll to you yesterday about the appeal was a Washington Post story that had some fun stuff in there. The people the Washington Post talked to said, I got all my news from NPR until Election Day, and now I've just turned it off because everything I thought was true is not true. Then they spoke to an MSNBC viewer who said exactly the same thing. I watched MSNBC every day until Election Day, and they're still too dumb or too corrupt or too brainwashed to recognize that their chosen sources for news and information have been lying to them, and that's the correct description, have been lying to, knowingly telling untruths, have been lying to them for years now. And Newsweek magazine, Democrats in disbelief over election loss. And again, the Washington Post going and talking to Democrats who got all their news from National Panhandler Radio, and now there's discussion of defunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting at long last. $535 million taxpayer dollars a year that go to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to, in large part, stand up the most ubiquitous, the most pervasive propaganda network the world has ever seen, and that is NPR. In every big city and every small town in America, spilling 24 hours a day Democrat Party propaganda at taxpayer expense. And I know some of these people in Washington, and the PBS NPR people, they live in multi-million-dollar houses and drive Mercedes-Benz automobiles, and they don't work very hard. Again, we do a radio show here with three of us three of us. At NPR, they've got a radio show in the morning that's 3 hours long. They have 33 people on staff for that radio show, 33. And at NPR in Washington, they had their own sushi chef. Who's our sushi chef here again? Oh, yeah, it's a vending machine, which works some of the time. We have a vending machine, and NPR, they've got a sushi chef because it's not their money. Know what I'm talking about? So Axios CEO Jim Vandehai and ex-owner Elon Musk locked horns over who defines, quote, the media, end quote, in the wake of the election. In the early morning hours of November 6th, as Donald Trump was being declared president-elect, Elon Musk wrote to his ex-followers, "You are the media now. You are the media now," he said. Look, it was the autoerotic asphyxiation suicide of the news media once again. And the Washington Post reporting very reluctantly and remorsefully that NPR listeners dialed in every day, and now they're just turning it off because they're, you fool me once, shame on you. Fool me like 40 or 50,000 times over the course of a couple of decades. You're an NPR listener. You're a moron. You like being lied to. I suspect your spouses lied to you too, but never mind that. So as President Trump was declared, he said, being declared president, "You are the media now," he declared, a sentiment he has repeated in the weeks since. Vandehai delivered a fiery speech in response, and he was on Thursday, as he was honored, along with Axios founder Mike Allen, co-founder Mike Allen, with the National Press Club's Fourth Estate Award. Actually, I should be getting the Fourth Estate Award, and he should be getting a lucite block shaped like a... No, that would probably be impolite. Maybe it shouldn't. Maybe we shouldn't do that. And now let's go to Mike Allen, because he was at the National Press Club, and they had the National Press Club wall covering behind him, and there were some people in the room as he was being given an award at the National Press Club. I work in the afternoon at Newsmax, very close to the National Press Club, downtown Washington, just blocks from the White House. But here is Jim Vandehai, and the people at MSNBC loved it so much, Morning Joke, that they played the clips that we're about to play you, and then they had spasms, the Morning Joke crowd, little circle fest there. But here's Jim Vandehai of Axios saying just another left-wing Democrat Party front group of a news organization. I'm making quotation marks with my fingers. Jim Vandehai.
I hate this damn debate about, we don't need the media. It is not true. But there's something about the country. There's something about it, right? There's something about freedom, capitalism, the animal spirits of democracy. But at the core of that is maybe transparency, maybe a free press, maybe the ability to do your job without worrying to go to jail.
Wow. Dripping with irony, is it not? Maybe being able to do your job without going to jail. I'm sorry. Let's talk to Peter Navarro of the Trump White House. Let's talk to Steve Bannon of the Trump White House. Let's talk to George Papadopoulos of the Trump White House, who were all thrown in jail for doing their jobs at the White House. And then they were called up to testify before Congress, and they said, well, listen, we have executive privilege. We work at the White House. It has always been thus. And he said, no, sorry, we're going to have the FBI arrest you at Reagan National Airport and put you in leg shackles, as they did with Peter Navarro, and then they threw him in prison for trumped-up, ginned-up charges. And then, with no sense of irony whatsoever, Hunter Biden, who is doubtless going to be pardoned very, very soon, even though they promised us from the podium that he would not be pardoned, but they lie all the time, so look for the pardon. But never mind that. And then Hunter Biden violated a congressional subpoena and nothing at all. Does he arrested at Reagan Airport, getting on somebody else's private jet paid for by Ukrainians or Chinese? No, that's all fine. But he says, with no sense of irony, that, gosh. Now, let me explain this to Jim Vandehai. You've been canceled. All right? Axios has been canceled. CNN has been canceled. MSDNC has been canceled. their ratings fell through the floor. They were already on the floor. And after Election Day, their ratings fell through the floor and crashed into the fiery pits of hell where they belong. You know, you guys report, and then he talks about war, reporting from war zones, right? Now, the thing is, you guys have been giving Hamas's perspective. You are the Hamas news agency. Almost all of the American press, the so-called mainstream American press, reporting everything on the Israel war from the perspective of a terrorist, genocidal terrorist army that is hell-bent on wiping Israel off the face of the earth from the river to the sea. But your college-age kids are at, their college campuses chanting from the river to the sea because you people have joined the jihad, honestly. And then there's the war in Ukraine. By the way, neither of these wars were going on when President Trump was in the White House. They came along when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris took over. And you guys haven't reported on the war in Ukraine. You just don't report it. Name a war correspondent that's been reporting from Ukraine. You couldn't name one because nobody's doing it. We've had how many? Coming up on 1 million people killed in this war, and the American news media could care less about it. I'm sorry, I always get corrected by listeners. Couldn't care less. It would be impossible for them to care less about it. Because I know it's a colloquialism, and it's funny. I was thinking about this last night when I was walking, and I was saying could care less. And there, I just used it by accident right there. They couldn't care less. It would be impossible for them to care less. How about that? That's better. Semantically correct. Jasmine agrees. She's nodding in agreement. Yeah, that makes sense to me because her English is better than mine, so she's constantly correcting me. It's very good. Jasmine there. But they don't report on the war in Ukraine. They didn't report on the wars during, honestly, during the Obama administration. Obama attacked 8 countries, had an ongoing war for, 8 months in Libya until they left a failed state in the hands of radical Islamic jihadi organizations. And Hillary Clinton cheered, yay, we came, we saw, he died. Muammar Gaddafi, who at least held the Islamists at bay in Libya. Not that he didn't deserve to be whacked, but that's another discussion. So the news media, they lie about politics, they lie about Trump, they lie about vaccines, they lie about masks, they lie about the border, they lie about, and by omission sometimes, the war in Ukraine. They lie by commission about the war against Israel, plural, wars against Israel by Hezbollah in the north, funded by Iran, by Hamas in the Gaza, funded by Iran, by the Houthis in Yemen, funded by Iran. They don't report on these things because they don't report the news. They don't cover the news. They cover up the news. But listen, Vandehai, you've been canceled by us, the American people, and Elon Musk is right. But the angry Jim Vandehai railing and yelling at the National Press Club.
It's not like we just love getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning doing this every single day. Like, we do it because we love it. We do it because it matters.
What?
The work that we do matters.
It's not like we love getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was up at 4:15 this morning myself. And but then didn't he contradict himself? It's not like we love getting up at 4. We do it because we love it. That seemed contradictory right there. But they're Democrats, so have no fear. Just amazing stuff. So there he is. He's at the National Press Club, and he wasn't done yet. He was still railing on. And he doesn't understand why people have canceled them.
Everything we do is under fire. Elon Musk sits on Twitter every day, or X today, saying, like, we are the media. You are the media. My message to Elon Musk is, bullshit. You're not the media. You're
fired. You're canceled. Honestly, you are just ridiculous. I've got more on this too because they were playing it on Morning Joke, and they were very excited by all the BS that Vandehai had to say. Very angry, very bitter. It's because their ship is sinking, but they punched all the holes in it, so it's hard to feel sorry for them when they sunk their own battleship. And now they're railing on about it, pounding the table, and yelling at Elon Musk. But you were the media when Jack Dorsey owned Twitter, and it was all left-wing dominated. and they were crushing the free speech of conservatives, and you guys didn't speak up because you're not defenders of free speech, you're abusers of free speech. You, Jim Vandehai, and that gang you run with.
American ass. You've killed us.
Let's get back to Vandehai. Seems like not a very happy person. I'm thinking nobody's having him over for Thanksgiving. He's probably alone in his car, sitting there playing with a... Well, I don't want to say what he'd be playing with. But here's Vandehai at the National Press Club receiving an award, the Fourth Estate Award, which I should get and not him. Just saying, maybe next time around the National Press Club will correct that egregious error. Attacking Elon Musk because Elon Musk tweeted, "You are the media now, right? And we are the media. How dare you say that?" And Vandehai very upset.
You having a blue check mark, a Twitter handle, and 300 words of cleverness doesn't make you a reporter any more than me looking at your head and seeing that you have a brain and telling you I have an awesome set of tools makes me a damn neurosurgeon, right? Like what we do, what journalists do, what you did in Mississippi, what Al Jazeera does in the Middle East. You don't proclaim yourself to be a reporter. Like, that's nonsense. Like, being a reporter's hard, really hard.
Well, for you, apparently. For most people, not so much. You observe, you report, but he wasn't done. He's an embarrassment. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, now it goes to Morning Joke. Morning Joke played that video, and then they became indignant.
Yeah, come on, slow clap, everybody. Whoa.
He's got to tell them to clap.
First of all, I've got to say, extraordinary content.
Fake.
It needed to be said.
Total fake.
It continues to need to be said.
You're a donkey. You're just a donkey show. You're an embarrassment.
What you do matters. What the New York Times does matters. What the Wall Street Journal does matters. What Jonathan Lemire does matters. What the Financial Times does matters.
Well,
what
NBC
News and MSNBC reporters do matters.
Less and
it
less.
matters.
Nobody has faith, trust, or confidence in you because you've lied so many times. And, you're caught by everybody paying attention.